Welcome in, welcome in. How is everybody doing tonight? Tonight I just planned on just talking a little bit, seeing what's going on, seeing how people are doing. Um, just kind of had a few thoughts. I don't know, it seems strange to me. Well, hey, T-Row, what's up? How are you doing, man? Just kind of curious. Hoping you're doing well. What's up, Infinite? Welcome in. Nice. Very good. I don't know, I just had a few things on my mind I wanted to chat about. See if you guys care one way or the other. Who knows? It's just one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about was how people make one facet of their life like their whole identity. Like if they like music, that's what they have to peg everything about themselves on. I mean, I don't know. I just find it interesting that people like to do that. That they make this one thing that they like into all that they are. And music was just an example I came up with. There is plenty of them. Like there are plenty of examples of, like a comic book nerd, and that's all they are. Regardless of what they do for a job or whatnot, but comics are their life. Like, I get it, I like certain things, but I'm a multifaceted person. I'm not a monoculture. There's several different things people like. But I mean, there's people that just make just some arbitrary thing in their life, like the whole underpinning of who they are. And I'm not trying to call anybody out here. This isn't like, it's like, oh, I noticed this person or that person. Like, no, it's just literally, I just realized that, back in the 90s, it was your job. Everybody focused on their job. That's what they were. I mean, you asked them, what do you do? Yeah. Like when somebody asked who you are, you literally told them what your job was. But that's not who they were. That's something they did, or whatnot. And I think it's actually gotten worse over time. People have taken their hobby, their some facet, and made their identity around it. And I think that's part of the reason why we have politics the way it is, why we have entertainment the way it is, why all of this stuff, it's like if you asked me, I wouldn't tell people, I wouldn't say right off the bat, it's like, oh, I'm a Twitch streamer. If somebody asked me, oh, so what do you do? It's like, well, this is what I do. I stream Twitch a little bit. I play around with YouTube, but mostly I just goof. I do what I want to do. And I think I think what it really comes down to is that people outside of this one area of knowledge that they have become suddenly very uncomfortable with their knowledge outside of that. Like it makes them uncomfortable to talk about something that they're not a expert on. Like I will talk about anything with anyone. I mean, if I don't know it, I ask questions until I know a little bit something about it because I want to know. And because, doing a Google search, especially now because Google's gone to crap, it's basically useless to do a Google search because all you're going to get served is ads, whether they're officially sponsored or not. Well, no, everybody has to be super specialized. Yeah, being well-rounded is just not something people even care about. They don't understand that, you have to be well-rounded to survive, to do anything in life. You can't always hire a professional. You can't always, use this one facet of your life to cover everything. And honestly, if that's all you talk about, you're rather boring. If all you are is an electrician and all you talk about is electrician things, it's only relevant to another electrician. And I think that's how we ended up with all of these echo chambers. All of these shadow, circles that you get involved in online circles, because you're always within this circle. I also think it's one of the reasons why, I don't grow. Not very fast. On Twitch, I've done actually pretty well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about that. But in like the YouTube stuff, is because I'm all over the place. It's who I am. I do a little bit of everything. And that just makes it very difficult for me to grow. But I'm also not going to change who I am just to satisfy some algorithm. And I think, nor am I going to let some algorithm control me. If I notice, when I go on YouTube and I get served the same videos over and over again, I try to go outside of that norm. Because I do want to see what other points of view are. I want to see what other people are talking about, what's going on. Maybe it's just ADHD brain. Maybe after a while I just get bored of something and move on to something else. Of course, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, so, don't take that as a condemnation or a diagnosis of myself. I was told at one point I was ADHD, but in hindsight, I think that wasn't an official person. Yeah, exactly. Well, everything we do is controlled by censorship and algorithms. And algorithms basically come baked in with censorship. And I'm not talking like, the collective shout censorship. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is they're just keeping you away from certain topics. But also they want you to hear from people that are basically diametrically opposed to what you're doing to start a flame war, because that fuels engagement. They want you inflamed. Not because they want, anything other than it fuels engagement. It's the same reason why when you Google up your symptoms when you're sick, it gives you the worst case scenario first. Because that fuels clicks. We are so engineered, and just humans as a general rule, not even about, modern day, but humans as a general rule, we are engineered to seek out the worst case scenario. And, well, that's because cancer is within us all. We have it from day one. Your body is constantly fighting a battle against cancer. Because all it is a if I remember correctly, it's when your body screws up in the replication of a cell. Now, most of the time, your body immediately targets that cell and fights it. But if there's too many at once, it can't. And that's how you end up with tumors. That's how you end up with cancer. These things that take people out. Okay. But we are constantly fighting cancer. You just don't know it. And a lot of times it just never gets a hold. You might feel run down for a little while, and all of a sudden you feel better again, and you didn't really have any other symptoms. You just suffered a bout of cancer. But your body killed it. Because our body can do it. It's our immune system. We have the ability to take care of it. But, side note aside, everything is powered by algorithms. And it has been for a long time. We're just getting better at the algorithms. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is originally the algorithms were meant to predict what we would do. Oh, if it goes after, underneath this temperature, stock warm foods, like oatmeal and hot cereals for breakfast. Oh, if it goes over this temperature, hot dogs and hamburgers. Until, at some point, the algorithm has nothing to, well, yeah. Yeah, everything will kill you. So you might as well just choose your poison. Choose how you want to die. Sure, Tide Pods would work. And welcome in, Gossip Girl. Why I called you... Welcome in, XO. Yeah, choose your method of execution. You know, as much as they come down on cigarettes, you know what will kill you faster? And probably in a worse way? Sugar. If you OD on sugar. Honestly, I have no idea how that would be to go. Tide Pods may be absolutely fun. I don't know. Right. Hey, and there's nothing, you choose it. Well, and what I mean by, sugar is that if you ate sugar like a smoker smokes cigarettes, or even at half the rate, sugar's going to kill you quicker. Because there's all sorts of health risks attached to sugar. High blood pressure, weight gain, diabetes, pancreatic problems, endocrine issues, liver issues. There is so many linked to sugar. But what's cigarettes? Lung cancer. That's it. Now, lung cancer has a really bad name, but we forget that diabetes, is basically incurable. Once you are classified as a diabetic, you will always be a diabetic. There's no cure for it. Supposedly. I mean, I've heard that there is, like replacing your pancreas or certain other things, but I haven't seen that in action. And I think that's, again, one of the problems of being a monocultural society. And by monoculture, I mean, people are what they are, what they do for a living, or they pick this hobby that's all they talk about because that's what they know. I like asking people about things I don't know. I'm absolutely fascinated by that which I don't know, which is a lot. There's a lot of things I don't know. Yeah, under better control, yeah, but you're never going to cure yourself of it. Even if you bring your A1C back into range and everything like that, doesn't matter. Once you have the diagnosis, it's permanent. You can lose all the weight in the world, run marathons, but you're still diabetic. Once it happens, you will not cure yourself because your body now doesn't work properly. And that's all I mean is that it's once you get the diagnosis, you are diabetic for life. There's no curing it. Now you can be told you're pre-diabetic, you need to take care of some things, which you can stop that. But you're always going to be on the cusp. Because it is literally a breakdown in the body. People like to blame people's eating habits. Oh yeah, well, what's cheaper? Health food or junk food? I mean, when was the last time you saw quinoa on a 2-for-1 sale? Or organic beef on a 2-for-1 sale? When was the last time there was a really good sale on produce? Fresh produce? Or tofu. Yeah, tofu. Which I can't eat. I have a soy allergy type thing. I don't even know if it's my body doesn't process it properly. Kefir is expensive. But it's good. The yogurt drink. But it's also good for you. That's the point, is that the things that are good for you are expensive. The unhealthy things are dirt cheap. That's the funny part is that, the wife and kids and I would get kefir occasionally as a treat because it's kind of like a milkshake. but it's a healthier milkshake. It doesn't have as much. I don't even know if it doesn't even have as much sugar in it, but I know it has better biotics in it. Like eating yogurt, it helps your gut health. And I think that's part of the problem is that we're focusing on the wrong issues. We focus on all these other things, but it's not the insidious stuff that really creeps up on you. Like some of the best food you'd ever have, something that you would eat on a daily basis, is also some of the most expensive, even though it's the best for you. Like in a world where we're supposed to eat healthier and be healthy and work, get better, why is junk food the cheapest? Especially in an economy where people can barely afford anything. So what that means is that regardless of their wants, they have to buy junk. You buy $200 worth of, organic groceries for the month, or $200 of basic boxed meals. And guess what? You're going to get a ton more of the basic boxed meals. Enough for a family of 4 for a month, and you can overeat it. How is that anywhere fair? That only the rich can be healthy and live longer and be healthy. We don't realize how much just a few extra pounds, a little bit of lack of sleep, really affects your mental state. Like going without sleep can make you depressed. Only it's a depression that you don't really feel. You don't really know it because you're half asleep all the time. It's also shrinking your brain depending on how long you go without sleep. Last I knew. Maybe there's new studies on that. It's just looking at your daily habits and how to be just a hair better. It's easy, it's easy to get locked up. It's easy to forget. It's easy to not understand and just let something else tell you. If you question, question my wisdom, look it up yourself. That's fine. Do it. I have no problem. If I'm wrong, tell me. I could be completely wrong. I'm not an expert either. I talk a good game. Last I knew, I remember a lot of things. A lot of studies and stuff that I've read because I like looking things up. I like reading. I miss being in college where I had access to peer-reviewed journals and I could read this stuff, read the studies, read the abstracts, get to the meat and bones of how they came up with their data and find out, hell, half of these, peer-reviewed studies are cherry-picked data that are garbage. In the 70s and 80s, low-fat, no-fat diet. Well, in the 90s, we started having some very hefty mental issues with kids. Here's my theory, and this is my theory. This is all me. Your brain is made of fat. If you eat low fat, no fat, how is your brain going to build itself? How can you build your brain better if you're eating barely any fat? Brain food is your high-fat steaks. Because fat, contrary to popular opinion, doesn't make you fat. Eating fat doesn't make you fat. Your body actually doesn't even store it the same way. Eating sugar is what makes you fat. Eating salt is what makes you fat. I'm sure you've seen it. You're not tired, you're inflamed. Most of what we're dealing with is inflammation. It's the sugar, it's the candy, it's the garbage foods, the high processes that are actually doing a lot of damage. The only problem is most people can't afford the good stuff. So you have to You have to do your best with what you have available. I mean, it's really hard. Nutrition is really hard because you get all of these different things. Like, oh, you got to have a multivitamin. Bullshit. Yeah, exactly. The brain is literally built from fat. It's 60% fat, 60% or 40% water or something like that. Like, I mean, it is literally made of fat. So how are you supposed to build your brain? I mean, especially as a growing child, if you're literally eating low fat, no fat diet. I mean, skim milk has what, 2%? Right. I mean, I raised my kids on whole milk. We didn't drink as much of it, but they got raised on the red cap, milk, the whole milk, not 2%. And I realized how much 2% milk tasted like water. But I was raised on 2%. I was also raised on a whole lot of animal fats because, we lived in Montana for a time, and then, we could afford to get meat. Or hunt it, that kind of thing. I was raised on animal fats. So that might be why my brain works differently than other people. And I'm finding that the older I get, the more different my brain works. And you find, yeah, like with the multivitamins, they're most of them are garbage. Like, there is no regulatory body that actually regulates vitamins, minerals, supplements. There is no regulatory body that checks and makes sure what it says is in it is even in it. By the laws, they don't even have to include it. If I remember right, basically the law is kind of like it has to have a reasonable chance of having it in it. Again, check my statements. There is a YouTuber, right? Which that's not good for people. It has to do with the 1970s and animal cruelty and people still pushing this narrative that the slaughterhouses are more cruel than they have to be. Now, I do think that there is a certain amount of that, but I don't think it's nearly as endemic as what these activists would want you to believe. They go out and find the worst cases and say that everyone's like that. I will tell you a simple thing. If you've ever been a hunter and you can tell when you eat a meat when the animal was stressed or if it was a clean kill. The local beef don't taste that way. They don't taste like they're stressed. What I get doesn't taste that way. Most of what you're looking at is the bargain basement garbage. Like when I used to get my Chubs of hamburger from Walmart, that was a stressed animal. That's why I stopped getting it. Yeah, exactly. That was the whole evolutionary advantage. Was when we learned to eat foods. And these people that are doing raw and primal diets are idiots too, though. Because one of the things is that if you're eating raw meat, there's an extreme amount of dangers of parasites. Extreme. Number two, though, your body has to cook that food before it can even use it. Primal paleo? Yeah. Are you not familiar with those diets? Okay, so primal is basically, hunter-gatherer type of diets, meats and And a lot of these people are taking it a step further and just eating the raw meat. And I'm just like, my brother did it for a while, and I finally just looked at him and was like, dude, your body literally has to cook that meat before it can use it. Right. Well, paleo for who? Are we talking about paleo for people from Africa? Paleo from Europeans? You know, because the Paleolithic era, you know, what do you consider it? You know, what area are you talking about? But you're actually making it very difficult on your body if you're eating raw meats, because it has to cook it, then break it down. So you're actually extracting less nutrition than if you were to cook it for yourself first, because your body has to use more. It's like celery. It takes more calories to break down celery than it provides. Well, you're increasing that deficit with the paleo and primal. The reason why people feel better and they feel like they can do so much is because their body's starvation mechanism is kicked in. Your body feels like it has to, ramp up so that it can keep going. So that you can find more food. So you've kicked on a primal part of the brain, so it has to eat more and more. Which means a primal diet actually starts costing you more and more. It's just going the same way as vegan. If you do a vegan right, vegan diet can be very, very good for you. But the more closely you get to the best foods, the more expensive it is and the more you need. Like you have to have a lot of money to make it worthwhile. Because to half-ass a vegan diet, you're causing more problems. It's just like these two, primal and vegan, they're two sides of the same coin. But like I say quite often is that all things in moderation, including moderation. Sometimes you have to gorge yourself on your sweets and stuff like that and have fun with it. Just know that you can't do it all the time. Sometimes you want to get your drink on and get super drunk and, suffer the next day and just like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But it's a release. And then you don't do it for a while. There you go. Good job, XO. And I don't know how much you guys even care about this kind of stuff, but having a well-balanced diet, a little bit of meat, vegetables, all of this, like I also know that depending on the quality of meat, depends on how much you need. Just like with the quality of the vegetables, depends on how much you need per, they always say, oh, like 6 ounces of meat a day. Well, one, chicken's nowhere near as good for you as it used to be. And pork's nowhere near as bad for you as it used to be. They can't, the food industry can't just provide you. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I would suggest anybody that can afford it, look into ButcherBox. It's something I've used for years. And they use smaller farms, not big agricultural, not, any of that stuff. And you get meat from there. The quality of the meat I get from them, so much better than pretty much anything I find in stores. Plus, it's delivered right to your home. That was a boring bot. It had a very boring name. There was nothing cute or unique about it. Nahul. I mean, maybe it's in a different language. I don't know. But that was boring. Right? Give us at least interesting names we can make fun of. Oh, is it a South American name? All right. Sorry. My Eurocentrism is showing. Oh, it's just still a pretty regular name? Well, okay. Well, then it's not creative. I I like cool names. I like unique names. But I don't know. It's just one of those things that, big ag, big for, food industry just likes. And I know I'm not saying anything new. Everybody knows these things. But I don't think they realize how far it infiltrates. And how easy it is to fall down without looking around. I think we got given like a month's worth or something like that, a butcher box free. A certain amount of meat and stuff so we could try it out. I think some family member or somebody gifted it to us for Christmas or anniversary or something. I don't remember. It's been that long ago that we started it. And it has been a game changer. I feel better. And it's just meat. It's just the meat. It's not like Factor or anything like that where it pre-cooked, everything's pre-done. It's like, no, you still have to do the cooking. But these are like the old school butcher cuts that I grew up on. These are small farmers that do it themselves. These are, but everything has to check USDA or pass the checks of USDA. Everything has to be good quality, or at least a reasonable quality. I mean, you can even get seafood through them. So occasionally I'll get wild-caught shrimp, or I'll get this. I mean, and a lot of times it comes out on special. They have special deals. Like for a year, I got a pound of hamburger, and I think it was a package of their hot dogs. Because we got some kind of barbecue deal. But we paid one price, and then it just came in every box for a year. Another time, we paid a certain amount of money extra on top of the box to get bacon for life. We get one package of their bacon, which, I mean, it isn't their top quality, but it's perfect for cooking with, like chopping it up and putting it into soups or something like that. I wouldn't really consider it a breakfast bacon. Because you want a thicker slice. It's not a thick slice bacon. It's a thin slice. So it's perfect for putting into soups or cooking it and crumbling it over salad and stuff like that. It's perfect for that. I mean, you're not getting a super great bacon for free, but I get it free for life. As long as we have the box, we'll always get one of those packs of bacon. And we even kept it through pausing it through all these moves. You can pause the box. It's like, no, I don't want to cancel. I'm just, moving, or I just not this month because we still have extra. And even worse is now that, Tater's out of the house and it's just the wife and I, we're trying to figure out how to reorganize the box so we don't end up with a butt ton of food in the freezer when the next box comes. So, I mean, no, I'm not sponsored by Butcher Box. I would love to be. But I would tell you to look it up. At least check and see if it's something that you could do. Because I can eat a lot of steak. I can eat a lot of meat. But when I'm cooking with the Butcher Box, I do about a quarter pound at a time. And for dinner, dinner's the only meal I really eat meat. I eat meat, for dinner once a day. I don't eat meat the rest of, because I have my protein shake for breakfast, which is generally around like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. I eat dinner about 5 because that's when the wife gets home. I want her to have a hot meal as soon as she gets off work. And that's when I eat the meat. And then I snack. After that. I get something to snack on. Like when I just left Ghost Stream and then I come over to here, do mine, that hour in between, I was getting a snack. I was prepping things for this. I was doing that. But it was just a snack. And I think, okay, well, no, I did have meat because I also do like, just getting slices of salami and eating it with Cheez-Its. So today I did have meat, outside of that. But it was just, small little, like, 50-cent size piece, 50-cent piece sized salami that I cut in half. Oh, I just, just grab and go, and it's just they're little 50-cent size pieces, slices that I just cut off a chub myself. I cut those in half and eat them with Cheez-Its. Just a little snack cracker. Nope. But, yeah, exactly. It's yum. Sometimes I use big saltines and I cut them slightly differently, and I also just cut, my own slices of cheese. It's just, I don't do that as often as I used to. Like, I used to keep a chub of salami around all the friggin' time. But not so much anymore. Sometimes right? Yeah, sometimes I would also, I'll have some yogurt over granola, mix the two together. So it's like, it's almost like a dessert, but it's a healthier dessert. Is it a healthy dessert, like good for you? I don't know, but it's healthier than having a bowl of ice cream or a bowl of cereal. I mean, yeah, why? What's wrong, T-Row? Or what do you think is wrong? Granola, Greek yogurt? Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, I'm doing all right. It's a cloudy day, so I might be sounding a little bit more low energy. That and I forgot to take my allergy medication today, so my nose is all stuffed up. So I'll occasionally pause it. So if you hear that like sudden dead air, it's so I can sniff. Because allergies. So I probably sound off. Because I have a cat. Right. It's allergies. It's because I forgot to use my allergy spray. Yeah, it was just my stupidity. And because I'm allergic to a cat and we own a cat, my nose gets stuffed up. So I'm talking more through, so I sound stuffed up. That's all. I mean, I'm feeling fine. I think we're all doing well, aren't we? It's either that or else T-Row's making a joke because I'm talking about health food and stuff. Right. At least I hope we're all doing okay. I figure you guys would tell me if you're not. Yeah, I mean, it's just a combination of the weather. The clouds and stuff always run me down a little bit. I'm actually pretty excited. I've had a pretty good day. Like, even though the weather's turned, it's not hitting me as hard. I think mostly it's just I forgot to use my allergy spray, and so I've got a bit of a headache. I didn't realize it until I had already started stream, which means when I go to take my break, I'll use it. Yeah, we're just all making sure everybody's okay. Sup, Rando? How you doing, man? We were talking about food. Sort of. We were talking about nutrition. Oh, wow. I'm sorry, dude. If I had remembered what day it was, I probably... Oh, that's good. I'm sorry that you weren't doing okay. Right. And I forgot, when Ghost asked me this morning, like he asked me first thing. I woke up first thing to a text message from him saying, "Hey, you want to play, Bigfoot with him?" And I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah." So it is my fault for forgetting. It's called When We Rise. It's actually a mini series. And I mean, the first episode, what I heard of it was great. I had a lot of fun with it. Right. Well, and I know that we all have lives, I mean, I don't know. I had fun with Ghost Stream. I was having a lot of fun. I was actually surprised we managed to kill Bigfoot. That was actually pretty cool. And Raven's like a super stalker on that. Friggin', I fell for the trap twice. Like, I cannot believe that he baited me into a trap twice by just standing still. Right? I am going to be so bad, but I'm going to try. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. Oh, there's no way. That wouldn't have... Right. Well, and you never know when Ghost is really going to end his stream on Wednesday nights. And I don't know, I think Tuesday is also a good night because I don't start up till 9 and Ghost streams in the morning. Right. Yeah, but it's also just trying to figure out a good timing. It's one of the reasons why I'm cutting Friday nights is just because it clashes with too many people's plans. People like to do stuff on Friday nights. Well, I'd say so, but, Friday nights doesn't seem to be very good. I mean, yes, I get, people in, but then it's hit and miss, and it might be just summer. I'm trying something different. This week I'm going to be 2 to 4. Your birthday is Friday. That's right. I should have known that. Because it's 2 weeks after mine almost. Pretty police, yeah. Well, happy early birthday, T-Row. Hell. So how old are you going to be? Finally going to be 21? Merry early birthmas. Oh, wow. What is Friday? What day is that? 14th? See, and that is so weird. 15th. Oh, that's right. Yeah, my parents' old anniversary. Friday the 15th. Almost sounds as creepy as Friday the 13th if you really think about it. Like it just has that same kind of ring to it. Well, about time to go take a break. It does. Like Friday the 15th sounds ominous, just like Friday the 13th. Actually, I think it sounds more ominous to me. Gossip could have allowed that. I mean, buggery and sodomy are not bad words. They're words that are descriptors, like literally, if I remember right, buggery is a legal determination of certain things, used to be in the UK. Oh, yeah, no problem. Gossip, I trust your judgment. If I didn't, you wouldn't be a mod. Same with you, Infinite, by the way. But I understand. We're all still learning here. It's just they're legal terms. I don't have a problem with buggery and sodomy. The words. You know, I think the way people use them, on the other hand, could be a little offensive. But when you're talking about legal things, yeah. Hey, I'm not complaining. You did fine. I don't know if it was so much as entertainment as infotainment. Blocking. T-Row, why are you blocking Infinite? What did Infinite do? I don't know what's going on with Twitch lately. I have tried to run that through my brain several times trying to say it, and it's just not working. Oh, I know, T-Row. We got about the same size of thumb. Cheese may attainment. Yeah, I hope I sound better now. I was able to get my allergy spray. I did remember. But I still feel a lot of pressure. It takes a while for that to work, but it is working better. Oh, that's funny. I did not know that. See, that's something I didn't know. Cheese may. So I'm going to link CT's page. I don't know, most of you already know it, but for those that don't, his YouTube. Wanted to give a little, heads up because why am I doing it this way? What am I doing? Because I am going to be narrating partially on one of his videos in his Cryptic Tales of the Iceberg. I get layer 7. There it is. So, I want you guys to get caught up before I do it. That's great, Gossip. I like that. But Taroxa is having trouble, getting the narrators he wanted, so he had to settle for me. So, this afternoon we were talking about it, and I think what he's doing is really cool. I like it. I'm glad to be a part of it. The episode's not out yet. I haven't even recorded it yet, so maybe he did, maybe he didn't. We'll see. I happen to like my voice. I like the bit, so we'll see. I have fun with it. Since I have the time on Friday, I plan on, recording it then and sending it to him. I don't know when it's layer 7, so it's going to be a while. Dame La Chisme Infinite. The Lady of the Infinite Gossip. Or the gossip on... I get really confused in how I'm parsing it out. I still like it, though. So what does dame mean, then? Ah, okay. So would it be like dame? Got it. I actually said it right. Dame. That's funny. I'm still learning. I may be an old dog, but I can still learn new tricks. I have a lot of fun with that. I think funnily enough, I've probably learned more Spanish here than all the time I tried to learn it on Duolingo. I mean, all I really remember from learning from Duolingo was Mercato. Wait, what? That's what I say when the guy at Taco Bell asks for any extras. Chisme. Okay, yeah, that is pretty good. Sorry, I was skimming. I missed it. Yeah. How to say gossip. I don't know. I think that's one of the things that I liked the idea of Duolingo until they started really making it hard, expensive or difficult to get to. I'm kind of curious how Ghouli's doing with Babbel. She had some extra money at one point and they were offering a lifetime membership for a flat rate, and so she just bought it. So I don't know if she's still using it or what. Makes you kind of curious. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was 250, 300. Yeah. But Babbel is, you have to pay for it. And, right? I've been meaning to ask, it's hey, if you're not using it, maybe I can. Because I think it'd be fun. See, I could probably learn French faster because I took it in high school and I was a student in high school. Which, I mean, there's still some things I know how to say in French. But mostly it's when I look at something I can tell you how it's said in French. Oh, yeah, Portuguese. That'd be fun, too. I'd love to go visit Portugal. Yes, I would love to visit Portuguese. I would love to go visit Portugal. I hear it's pretty nice. I was going to say, I don't think, I'd take some Spanx to learn Spanish or Italian. Little Miss Gossip. I mean, I mean, sometimes that's the only way to learn. Mistakes are painful. Still funny. Yeah, I mean, it's still funny. He's kind of funny. But yeah, I'm kind of excited about, narrating for CT. I think it's going to be fun. I want to do it right because, I mean, the script I've read over is pretty good. I should be able to do it in a day. My gift to you, Tiro. What's the old saying? Spare the rod, spoil the learner. Just get out that yardstick and make sure people remember. Right? I mean, you may not understand. I am laughing. You just don't hear it. I'm used to being quiet at certain times. It's that automatic censoring of oneself. Oh my God. That was funny. That was really good. I can't remember what that was about, but he was trying to type something else. And it ended up, it was like, I'm yearning for your ass. Like, what? Oh. It's always fun having you here, T-Row. Missed having you, man. You're a lot of fun. You think you offend anybody, but no, we're just too busy laughing. Like, your jokes are good. I don't think anybody here is that sensitive to not get the what was it, Hawk Hagen? That was good. I liked that one. Yeah, Hawk Hogan with a big hog. At least he wasn't coming after them feets. And I know that dog is supposed to be laughing, but I have a sick mind. Hog Hogan. Good. Good. Oh, it takes a lot. And remember, it takes a lot to get banned outside of certain things. And T-Row, I know you. You're not going to bring up those certain things. You're not a very political person. And that's mostly like you would have to use some of the most extremist language on either side for that to be a problem. Again, you're not one of those people that make one thing their identity, so you don't go to extreme. Well, maybe that is actually what I mean. Is that, and I know I've talked about it before, but about, fanatics. People become fanatical about one aspect of things. Like if they're Doctor Who fan. They become an absolute fanatic over it. And suddenly nothing's bad. They can't do any wrong. Doctor Who is good, and if you try to criticize it, and this is an extreme example, they like lose their collective mind. Oh, I love Doctor Who up until a point. Peter Capaldi is where I stopped watching. Not because I didn't want to watch the one with the female doctor. I have no opinion on that one. I haven't seen it. I just lost access to watching Doctor Who, so I wasn't able to finish it out. Like, I couldn't even finish Capaldi's season because they moved it from where I was watching it to someplace else. And it's just like, or not Capaldi's season, but his run. Because I used to be able to catch it on Amazon back in the day. And then they moved it to someplace else, and I'm just like, what? Why? I was enjoying that. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Capaldi was a great doctor. I'm just saying that he wasn't bad. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. I mean, he was no Matt Smith. He was no David Tennant. Those are hard acts to follow. And I just think that's the problem with the more recent doctors is that you had a great run of some damn good doctors. I mean, what did they do? Bring back Tennant like a third time? Like, so that tells me that you never should have let him go in the first place. I think if they had been smart, as much as I liked, yeah, I think it was 3. As much as I liked the actress that played Missy, what they should have done is during Capaldi's run is bring David Tennant in as the Master. Because it was the Master's redemption arc. Missy was learning to be better. And then you could have spun off an actual Master, or maybe they could have, spun it off as a different name, because, the doctor can change their name depending on who they become. And if they had spun off, David Tennant as now who used to be the Master, I mean, they could have had fun with it. It's just called him Mr. Who. Because he's no longer the Master, nor is he a mistress. He's just Mr. Hey, Mister. I mean, because David Tennant wasn't done. They should have never got rid of him when they did. I mean, I'm glad they did because you had got Matt Smith. And I really liked Matt Smith's run. I do believe that Amy Pond and Rory outshined him during that time. And River, Song. His companions were more of what made Matt Smith's run better. In my personal opinion. Yeah, the Ponds were amazing. It was such an awesome run. And I mean, they did some really epic stuff. I don't know. I really liked Doctor Who. And River. I mean, the fact that they teased her in Tennant's run with the library, and then you don't see her for like another year or 2. I had forgotten that she'd been in the library. And the whole concept of, checking their journals and figuring out who and where they are. Which iteration, that kind of thing. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. They did one of the best nods to good time travel etiquette. In realizing that you would have to have good time travel etiquette depending on when the two of you are crossing paths. Like, that's a hard thing to keep in mind. And I thought they did a wonderful job with it. I mean, especially since she knew at that point that they were already going to get married. that she was talking to her future husband. Yeah. And they couldn't have got a better actress. And the fact that it was the same actress that they got in the library episode, I can't remember exactly what but it was brilliantly done. And if you haven't seen the Doctor Who, basically Chris Eccleston opens it up very well. He was fun, but I don't think, as much as I hated seeing him go after just one season, yes, the actress that played River Song, brilliant actress. I don't think a second episode or a second season of Chris Eccleston would have worked as well as, right? And I don't know enough about what's been going on other than what I see in the news, not the news, but what people talk about how badly Doctor Who fell down. I honestly don't know. But I'm not going to judge it because I haven't watched it. Like, I don't care if the Doctor's gay, lesbian, whatever. I don't care. Because it's always been implied. I mean, that started with Jack. Actually, the new guy. I don't remember his name. But, he's already quit, so that's what sucks. Is that you have a good night, Gossip. Sorry that we were talking about Doctor Who. Apparently you don't like it. I apologize. Oh, yeah, spelling mistakes are fun. Not even rising to the bait of my little jibe. I'm sorry. Yes, have a good night, XO. And I shall see you tomorrow. One way or another, either through the Discord or through stream. I'll see ya. Well, fine. I guess I'm not going to get a response to my joke. I apologize. Maybe I did hit a nerve. Oops. Either way, I happen to like Doctor Who, or at least I did for a while. It happens. People come and go. Oh, when Gossip said she was leaving, I said that, sorry that we were talking about Doctor Who and it bored you. I was just pretty sure she was going to bed because she had, she's a busy person. Work and all that. It was just meant as an offhand joke. Normally she'll get offended or something, so maybe I did touch a nerve. I don't know. Whatever. I'm sure we'll figure it out at some point. Maybe she just really doesn't like Doctor Who. Perfectly valid. But, not everybody has to like everything. That was kind of the point where we got started on Doctor Who, was just the point of, you can critique something and still like it. There's critiques I have for even David Tennant's. I couldn't stand his second companion. Not Billie Piper, but the other lady. Until she grew on me and she was actually kind of fun. But then, I can label so many things, man. Whether it's right or wrong, I can label them. Oh, wait, you mean like an actual labeler? No, I have no experience. Or, change the combo, if people want to talk about it, I don't know. Are you talking with a label maker or? Labels are bad. Shouldn't label things. Just take all the labels off your cans and just have fun. Yes, air? Oh, I was like, what? You're trying to label air? Like, I mean, I guess it depends on the kind of labeler. If you got one of like the old school ones, like honestly, I can't think of the last labeler I used. I think the wife used to have one that had like a little mini keyboard that you type things out and it printed them out. But I haven't seen that thing in a hot minute. Let Kitty type. I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's very interesting watching. Like, I guess it just really depends on what kind of labeler you're talking about, T-Row. I don't know. I mean, if it's like the old school one where you have like the strip and it imprints like with the raised label, I haven't seen one of those in forever, so I would need more information. I know when my mom got a labeler like that, man, she went nuts with that thing. Catonese. Oh, okay. No, I haven't. I have no experience with one of those. I was actually looking at one of those, though. Looking at a Cricut or a Rolo for possibly, making my own merch at some point. Yeah, but I've never messed with them. I hear they're basically just like a vinyl cutter. Which, I mean, if you don't have any experience with a vinyl cutter, that doesn't do any good. Catonese. I'm still, yeah, that's good. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Surprised my cat didn't come out. Ah, okay. Yeah, like my buddy used to use a vinyl cutter, and when I looked at the Cricut a while back, like literally just like a couple weeks ago, it looked to me like very, more streamlined version of a vinyl cutter. So I think all you have to do is just input the right information and it'll cut it out. Board game, Catopoly. Nice. They do have so many different versions of Monopoly. D&D Monopoly. My buddy found Godzilla Monopoly. I don't know. There were so many. And now, board games are going to like go through a retraction because of Diamond Publishing, which I guess, had a whole bunch of the contracts for board game manufacturers like the independent ones. Right? Like I was saying, I know so many different versions or different, but it's all still Monopoly. So, I mean, to me, it's not that big of a deal. Like, they're all Monopoly. It still ends up ruining friendships and breaking up marriages. I'm joking. Actually, the one that, really I don't play anymore because it hurt to play it was when I used to play Pictionary. My sister always thought we were cheating somehow because I just throw out random guesses on what people were drawing because most of my... Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's a sentimental thing. Hasbro's really good at playing on that. But don't get me started on Hasbro again. Board games are fun, though. Yeah, wars have definitely started over Monopoly. You know, family feuds, stuff like that. One that I wish I could find a copy of again, but I don't know where it is, was called Balderdash. It was one of the funnest games I used to play back like when I was in junior high. And they give you really esoteric words, but they're real words. And your job is to make, yes, exactly. Your job is to make a reasonable sounding definition for the word and try and get people to guess yours as being the correct one. And you gain points that way. And it was fun. You know, it was just fun finding, you know, like learning. Oh, and also the real definition was in the choices. So you make up one and then there's real definition. And it was just a lot of fun. It's hard to explain, but it was a lot of fun. Another good one is categories. You know, but I mean, I don't think modern people really understand how much you can learn from games like that and how sharp you have to make your mind. Like board games now, I don't know, it's kind of boring to me because they all seem to have the same premise. Like these miniature board games, or not, you know, board games with their own little stand-up minis and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you're, you know, exploring a dungeon. I could literally make this up myself. You know, I don't know. But I'm not learning anything from it. It's not as stimulating to me if I'm not having to be challenged in some way. You know, sometimes board games like Monopoly require strategy. You know, or Pictionary. You have to, like, do your best to draw as good as you can and get the point across, which sometimes you have to use esoteric means. You know, or like with categories, you know, you're picking your brain. If you don't know what categories is okay, you're given a topic. Or you're given a letter. And then on this card, there's all these topics that you have to think of a word associated with that topic or something that falls in that category, like sandwiches or, you know, what kind, you know, that has that beginning letter, which can be really difficult. You know, and the more words you got right, the better off you were. You know, it's just some stupid fun. If you understand what I mean. It's a lot of fun to sit there and play around with games that you can kind of learn from, like Trivial Pursuit, like all of these other things, where there's a component of learning or stretching your brain. And more modern board games, they all have this same basic premise. You know, if you ever get a chance, play Seven Wonders. One of these days, I will actually sit down and play Ticket to Ride, which I now have my own copy of. I just haven't been able to find anybody to play with. I've actually had quite a few cool board games, but I don't have the right people to play with. Like, I absolutely loved, over my birthday, we played Betrayal at Hill House, I think is what it was called. That was absolutely fun. I lost. But they are. I plan on it probably in another couple of weeks. If I had remembered that it was your birthday this weekend, I probably would have made plans to head up there. You know, I feel kind of bad that I had forgotten, even though I made a point of being told. My fault. And I have some, I don't know. I want to. I want to get my butt up there. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But either way, board games are absolute fun. And Infinite, you say board games. Really? Really? You're gonna lay a guilt trip like that on me? If that's the case, I'm closer to dying than you are. But Infinite, you say board games seem so fun as if you don't play too many. Or haven't really played board games. Like, have you never really had the chance? Ah, okay. Yes, I know it wasn't meant like that. Well, I mean, I think that is what the internet age has really killed is board games. Because most people don't have the time or ability to get together to play them together. Because board games require you to be there in real life. Make a point of being there in real life. And, that's something that we used to do on holidays, family get togethers of one kind or another, where you get together and you play board games. Oh, and by the way, T-Row, you also remember that I also have a spare bedroom now. You could get your butt over here, too. I don't know how easy that would be for you. But, it's just stuff like that. It's just knowing that board games kind of, like, they made a resurgence, but I don't think they'll ever be the same like they used to be. Like, a board game used to be a safe bet to buy for, like, a housewarming gift. Or for somebody's birthday that you didn't particularly know. You could buy certain board games and get away with it, or card games like Uno. Too bad Gossip already took off. We also played Uno, and that was a friggin' trip. I loved playing Uno. Uno was a lot of fun. Which I need to find the copy of, that Uno that we played. Because that was a lot of fun. Just stuff like that. Yeah, T-Row. Wife's going to be real upset at me having a friend over. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, you'll have to share the room with the cat, though, because that's technically her room. Now, since Tater left, that's basically, like, the stupid cat has a full queen-size bed. We bought a sheet set and comforter for her. Because we were going to, it's supposed to be not for the cat, but, I mean, it was, a spare bedroom. But it's basically become her de facto room. Well, that's if the cat lets you. I'm joking again. I'm just saying. Nah. She'll be fine. But, I mean, it's just funny. Board games are so much fun, but I honestly don't think they're going to be like they used to be. Like, if you think about it, board games used to be, there used to be a certain amount of strategy. Like, you had to pick and choose i.e. with like Monopoly, there's a strategy there. Risk, there's a strategy there. But not only is it a strategy, multiple strategies can win. Multiple strategies can get you through the door. And, what was the other one my buddy had us play? It's like Monopoly, but in space. And, like, it is very distinctly different than Monopoly. Like, and it's just our solar system. And, I love Seven Wonders. I was really good at that one. That one is a fun one. And I wish more board games got translated into, like, see, that's what Discord really needs to do for their activities. Now, I just thought of this. They really need to get, like, some of these lesser known board games and convert them into activities for people to play on Discord, so you can get together with your friends and play these board games. I mean, like, the kids and I, with their online friends, we used to play Gartic Phone. And oh my God, was that fun. That is an interesting game. I wouldn't call it a board game, but I mean, it was definitely a game. And like Seven Wonders, you can play Seven Wonders online. And there was this one card game that I used to play called Dominion that they had online. But then they start, like, monetizing it to beat hell. I get, a one-time fee to buy the game. But come on, that you have to keep adding more and more reasons to pay for more and more stuff. Nah, that's ridiculous. And just, going to kill your brand. I think that's one of the bigger things, the bigger problems with board games is now they're trying to remonetize them. Not just buy them once, but also now you have expansions. You have these extra things, which in some cases the board games deserve it. Like Betrayal at Hill House, adding more things. Doomlings. I have heard of that game. I wanted to play that. I really do want to play that. I just haven't had, my old group that I used to play games with, I don't live near. A strategic card game. Now that sounds right up my alley. Just, I don't know, just get around and have fun. Either way, I mean, we'll get there. Have fun. Goof off. Not really. I miss my friends, but I don't really miss where I used to live. Speaking of that, no, I don't really miss it. They just had to shut down I-5 where I used to live because somebody decided to shoot at the train guys. They were shooting at a railroad crew. I don't really know any more information than that because it just happened today. My buddy was locked down at work because his job backs up along the railroad tracks. Yeah, I mean, he was taken alive. And in trying to look up what was happening, I found out, one of my old, I don't want to call him, somebody in one of my classes that I knocked his two front teeth out because he was an annoying cuss, ended up getting arrested because he was trying to be an active shooter. Apparently he didn't grow up. The guy's the same age as me, and he decides to try and shoot things up, but I don't even think he got a shot off. I think he was arrested before he could do anything. And I'm just like, guy was an idiot back in grade school, and I guess he hasn't learned anything since. I don't know if there was his adult teeth or not. We were young enough. I mean, like I said, this was grade school. I don't think they were his adult teeth. He was being annoying, and I didn't expect him to fall for the joke. That is the funniest part there, is that it was actually over a joke, and he was just annoying me, so I thought I'd annoy him back with a joke. And I told him, look up, look to the side, look to the other side, and I brought my knee up, and I said, now look at my knee. And he brought his head down right on top of my knee, and it knocked out his two front teeth. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. And it wasn't like I quickly brought up my knee as he was bringing his head down. No, it's like I brought up my knee and I said, okay, now look at my knee. And I guess I just did it that well that he's bam. And I'm just like, ow, for one, because, his teeth sunk into my knee. I was actually bleeding too. But the teacher was right there. She saw it happen and she realized that I had no intention of actually hurting him. It was just meant to be a joke of him looking at my, to look at my knee like, hey, I could have kneed you in the head. Now shut up. It was just an intimidation joke, I guess. I was like freaking 10, 11. And that's what happens? Like, oh my God. The guy was dense as, 2 feet of concrete. Right? Well, that was the idea, but apparently could have ended up into will. It's fun. It's fun remembering stuff like that and then seeing where they are now and, well, he's in prison. It's like, oh my God. So I'm kind of curious who this other guy was, because a lot of people where I lived, we actually had drive-by shootings and it's not a large town. I remember I was talking to somebody on the phone outside of the local Denny's and hear this pop, pop, pop. It was a drive-by shooting underneath the bridge. And that was literally a parking lot away from me. Is it any wonder I wanted to get away? But it was also a small enough town that most people knew not to mess with me. You don't know everybody I know. I had been there long enough that I knew a lot of people and I could really mess your day up. Nah, I don't need it. I don't have a need to get out of the house anymore like I used to, where I just had this burning need because I go out and explore here and there. But mostly I do the same thing that I used to do at Denny's here. I talk with people, and have fun. That's really what it is. Ask questions, get answers, and it just keeps rolling on. You know me, T-Row. That's what I do. That's how I act. This is what I do. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy sitting here talking with people all the time. That's why I keep kind of expanding my hours. And I'll be back on 2 to 4 tomorrow. I'm going to try and do this 2 to 4, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and, 9 to 11, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Oh, yeah. I've got plenty of Denny stories. One of these days, I'll tell y'all about Duct Tape Man. Actually, I have the time today. So there was a guy that used to come into the local Denny's that, we were pretty sure he was homeless. And we left him alone. But everything he had, his pants, his shirt, everything was made from duct tape. And he wouldn't tell anybody his name, so we just all called him Duct Tape Man, or Duct Tape for short. Even the tires on his bicycle were made from duct tape. Not held together with duct tape. Everything. Well, we didn't know that everything until he was arrested one time because for some reason, I think he just had a psychotic break. And because he used to have these wolves he would talk to. I mean, they weren't real wolves, but in his head, they were there. You know, mild schizophrenia. But he would talk to his two wolves. And then at one point, he decided to pull a 38, pull a gun and hold up the restaurant. Well, it didn't work out so well for him. We were all pretty active at that time. And he didn't hurt anybody. Nobody hurt him. We just restrained him, got his gun away from him, all of that. Well, the cops also used to take breaks. Their lunch was at the Denny's. And, they had told us the story of that they had to dress him down for, going into jail. You have to. We found out that everything, his wallet, everything was made of duct tape, including his underwear. Let that sink in for a second. Including his underwear. Which includes his socks, by the way. And his shoes. They were all made, and expertly made with duct tape. Double-sided, all of that. I mean, you want to talk about somebody with a tinfoil hat. Apparently, the whole reason why everything was made out of duct tape is that it blocked the signals. It was like an upgraded tinfoil. That's why he did it. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that... No. Silverside duct tape. The gray tape that, everybody uses for everything. Yeah, +3 wolf defense. Yeah. The guy was just, he was okay. He wasn't he didn't get in your face. He never asked for money. He always seemed to have just enough. But like I said, I think he just had a psychotic break at one point and decided that, something was wrong with the restaurant and it needed to be held up we didn't even really understand. And it happened so fast that he was taken down before he even got his full statement out. He just timed it poorly that me and another guy were coming out of the bathroom, which was behind him. He's holding up the restaurant. We come out and we see that he's got a gun, or that he's pulling a gun at that point. We run up. I trap his arms. My buddy that was next to me, take him out by the legs. So because I already had his arms, the legs got swept and we laid him down, pulled the gun out of his hands. And then we just held him for the cops. It was that quick and simple. I mean, the only reason why he even tried to hold his arms down is because he hadn't fully drawn the weapon yet. The worst he was going to do is shoot the floor. It wouldn't have even shot his own foot. And you have to react fast. You just trap the elbows. Oh. Yeah, that kind of person. And it's just... And like I said, Duct Tape Man wasn't a bad guy up until that point. Like I said, it was a psychotic break. Well, yeah, Pigpen was a kid from Peanuts. But they were talking about Linus because he always had a blanket. It's a combination of those two kids from Peanuts. Because the guy always had a blanket like Linus, and then Pigpen was always dirty. At least that's my assumption, is that it was a combination of the two. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Ah, okay. Hey, Green Jeans. I don't know how long you've been here, but you got here for basically just the end. I mean, you did say you'd catch the tail end. I just didn't realize it was that far in the tail end. I mean, who knows? Maybe you've been lurking for a while. Hey, buddy. How you doing? Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of figured. Later night than you expected, then. It wasn't that terrible. Just talking about Spanx. Right? Um, I forgot that Spanx were also a clothing. So I guess that'd be even funnier. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about learning Spanish and, having to use, Spanx to make sure that you got through it. I mean, I guess if you have to use spanked in your Spanx, make them latex Spanx. I like the slapping sound. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. No, Rando, no. Oh my God. It's been a fun night. I think it's been a good night. Right? No, it must not give. Must punish myself. Myself. Bro, I'd be afraid of, if I ever tried to use latex like that, I'd be afraid of the Tyvek incident on ship all over again, where they didn't make them in my size and I just moved and I ripped out of the thing. I ended up wearing Tyvek underwear by the time we were done with the cleanup job. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have been able to work on ship for too long because you have to have what's known as a benzene card. And it's basically your body can only absorb so much benzene, which is in every fuel, before you're basically made illegal to work on ships because there's just so much floating fuel. And we had a fuel leak, and I was the only one that was willing to go and do the job. So I had a face mask air breather on called a Scott Air Pack. Basically, it's like a scuba tank, but for dry air. And I was supposed to be wearing a Tyvek suit, but the Tyvek suit the biggest one they had didn't fit me. And I just kept working and didn't realize how much of it I had ripped out until I had gone out of this void, which is basically in between two bulkheads where the fuel leak happened. And I had cleaned up all the fuel, get out, and the guys are like, "You're wearing just your underwear?" And I looked down, and that was literally all that was left of the Tyvek. Yes. Yeah, it's like a scuba tank, but it's dry air. Only it's a full face mask too, and negative pressure. So when you go to breathe is when it jets air at your face. It takes a minute to really understand how to work it because your body wants to stop breathing because air is being forced in. And it only reacts on a certain pressure. And it always wants to keep a negative pressure so that it vacuums the the mask to your face. It just takes a little bit of skill to learn to breathe through it. Otherwise, it's really weird. But it is that time, folks. I apologize. But it is time to say goodnight. And I hope you all had a wonderful evening. And I hope to see you here tomorrow afternoon. Hope you enjoyed your stay.